All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. It's now the official free agency first week in the books edition of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan Orrick, here with my partner, Sean Williams, who is, I think, scrolling through his list of many women. I'm not sure what he's doing over there, but
get me in trouble, dude.
I got to. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're going to talk about several things, including Mark Ingram and his incompetent agent, and some of the other moves they're making, some of the moves they may make in the next week or so. But all in all, it's been a pretty eventful first week for a team that didn't have very much salary cap room. We sure made a lot of moves, and we have one shocking retirement. And we'll talk a little bit about Max Unger leaving as well. So, anyway, let's get started. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just about to get healthy. Everything's doing great, man. We want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and thank Fan First Productions for sponsoring us. Invite you guys to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube. And okay, let's dive right in. Mark Ingram.
Okay.
I think that in the grand scheme of things, from what I understand, now you can correct me on this. Mark Ingram was separated from New Orleans over a matter of about $1 million. If I understand.
Pretty much, yeah. Let's just leave it at that because there's a little more to it, but let's just stick with that.
Now, on the NFL Network the other night, I heard the statement. They weren't talking about Ingram. They were talking about Le'Veon Bell.
Mm-hmm.
And by now, everybody knows that Le'Veon Bell took a lesser deal to get out of Pittsburgh and go to the Jets. It's less money, but the key thing here was not the grand total of the contract in so much as it was the guaranteed money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is a really a similar situation with Ingram and Baltimore. The base salary is really not all that dissimilar from what he was getting in New Orleans, as I understand it. But it's the guarantees that he's going to get as per his contract.
Not really, because according to Josh Kattenstein over on Twitter, it said Latavius Murray with the Saints got $7.2 million in guaranteed money. The Ravens gave Ingram $6.5 million in guaranteed money, so he got more. Murray got more money guaranteed. Ingram's deal could pay more total money in less time, 3 years versus 4 years. But all the guaranteed money is in the first 2 years for both players. So the Ravens gave him a smaller contract. I think Murray got a 4-year deal. He got a 3-year deal with the Ravens. But he got less guaranteed money. So the Ravens are more willing to, if Ingram turns out to be a guy who can't handle over 300 carries a season for them, they can cut bait with him. Or if he gets old all of a sudden, they can cut bait with him a lot faster than we probably could with Murray. But that's my point when it comes to, excuse me, when it comes to Ingram's agent. Ingram was reportedly looking for about $7 million a year, and it turned out that he only got 5.5, I think, million a year, and the Saints were going to offer him 4 to 4.5 million a year, and they weren't going to budge from that number. Well, Ingram's agent tries to play hardball with Mickey Loomis. And Loomis don't play that. You know, like, remember the old In Living Color, homie, don't play that? Loomis don't play that. Loomis picked this thing up, had Murray already on speed dial and said, "This is what we're offering." Murray says, "I'll take it if you're interested." And they said, "Thank you very much. Next." And Ingram ended up having to sign with Baltimore. He really tried to play hardball and thought he could bluff them into, how badly do you want your all-time rusher? You know, and it's business. It's not personal. This is why Benson has trusted Loomis to handle the money in a lot of his business affairs, not just the Saints, the Pelicans, the film company, when he owned Fox 8, all those things. Loomis was involved in a lot of that stuff, you know. But that's why Benson has trusted Loomis to handle the money, because he knows what to spend and how to spend it. And, you know, Ingram got burned for it. The thing I worry about with Ingram moving on to Baltimore, now Murray coming in, because they're both about the same kind of back. They're about the same size. I think Murray is, I had his stats pulled up a second ago. Murray is 6'3", 230. Ingram, I know, is shorter. He's 5'9". That's not right. I thought he was 5'11". But they say 5'9", 215. But they both have a similar running style. They're low to the ground. They're physical runners. Murray runs a little more upright. Ingram is a better pass catcher. Murray's got less carries in him. Ingram has 1321 carries, whereas Murray has, excuse me while I scroll this, 3698. No, that's his yardage. I'm sorry, 899. Sorry, 899. Because Murray's only been in the league since 2014 as a sixth-round pick, and Ingram's been in the league since 2011. Murray has some pass catching ability. He has some pass blocking ability, but he's mainly been used as a between the tackles kind of runner, not an outside runner. His best year was in 2015 with Oakland. He had over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. The following year, he had fewer yards but double the touchdowns. That's probably what you'll see with the Saints. He was a short yardage and goal line vulture back. He had 12 touchdowns in 2016. And then he was signed by Minnesota. 8 touchdowns in 2017, 6 touchdowns in 2018. You know, I'm really, the thing I worry the most about with Murray is, you know, Ingram and Kamara had a relationship, and they were good, especially in 2017. It was a good balance between the two of them. They both got over 1,500 total yards. They both really fed off each other really well. No one player was getting more carries or touches than the other. Kamara kind of got a little bit more in the playoffs, but for the most part, they stayed pretty even. Last year, because of the suspension, Ingram's touches almost went in half from 1124. I'm sorry. I keep reading the wrong column, guys. 230 carries in 2017 to 138 in 2018. He had 58 receptions in 2017, only 21 in 2018. So, you know, one of the things I worry about with Ingram, with Murray coming over replacing Ingram, is that we're going to see even more get put on Kamara, and you may see Murray be used more like, kind of like how Tim Hightower was used in 2015 and 2016. That's not a good. I don't think that's a good setup, because this almost sounds backwards. But less of Ingram per game is better than more of. Kamara per game is better than more of Kamara per game. I'd like to see Kamara get fewer touches during the regular season, so he lasts longer into the postseason instead of giving him a heavy workload every game where he's getting over 20 touches per game. And
well, you saw the proof of that last year in that first 4 games when Ingram was out and everything fell on Kamara. Well, you fast forward to the last 4 games of the season and it told on him. The wear and the tear had an effect on his productivity in, I'll say, the last 6 games of the season.
Well, you kind of throw out, the Carolina game because you didn't even play that game. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you did see some of that wear and tear on him. He came back a lot more in the playoffs, but regardless, that's why I said I think less of Kamara during the season is better for the Saints. And again, I'm all about giving the Saints more weapons to choose from. So they have less they have to worry. I mean, less they have to focus on. You don't want teams double teaming Thomas and double teaming Kamara and go, okay, Breeze, now try and beat us without these 2 guys. No, you want them to go, we can't double team Kamara because if we double team Kamara, Murray's going to kill us. If Murray doesn't kill us, somebody else, some other running back's going to kill us. I'm not going to say Dwayne Washington because personally I think they draft a running back this year. I don't know where that will happen. I just think they will draft a running back. And the same with the receiving core. We can't double Michael Thomas. If we double Michael Thomas, then I don't know, Meredith's going to kill us, or Ginn's going to kill us, or some receiver we draft is going to kill us, or Jared Cook is going to kill us. Somebody like that, That's what you want. You want, like Hokie Gajan says in the 2009 Super Bowl highlight, you don't know who to double because the Saints spread the ball around so much. That's what I mean by less of Kamara is a good thing.
You have to, and let me stop right now and say this. I wish Mark Ingram nothing but the best. I hope that his career flourishes wherever that he goes. I absolutely loved what Mark Ingram brought to this team. And what you got out of Mark Ingram was not a dynamic feature back. What you got out of Mark Ingram was more the intangibles. As Alan mentioned a few minutes ago, the pass blocking, the pass catching, the more than anything, probably the locker room guy, as Alan went into great detail about last week. Those are the things that you had with Mark Ingram that you won't have that with Latavius Murray because this will be his first year in the locker room. That's probably going to be a role that Kamara steps into and works at fulfilling. But I don't want people saying that I was sitting here hating on Ingram. No, I am not. I wish him nothing but the best for the rest of his. I still believe. I've always been one of those conspiracy theorists. Mark Ingram will be back in New Orleans eventually.
I think he will be too. I think he will be back in a couple of years, honestly.
Yeah. When that contract in Baltimore is
when they can afford to cut him.
Get that
when they can afford to cut him.
Yeah. He's going to come back and he's going to get that 80 yards that he's missing. And man, I wish he would have gotten it last year. And you keep thinking back to that first 4 games of the season.
Yeah.
He could have accidentally got 80 yards in 4 games. But, I hope that he has – I think in the grand scheme of things that Baltimore is going to have no choice but to look at Ingram in a different way than the Saints did. If you look back over his career in New Orleans, the most success that he had, the most productivity that he had he was always working in tandem with another back, be that Pierre Thomas, Timmy Hightower, Alvin Kamara. He never had to be relied on to be the guy. And Baltimore really doesn't have anybody to put in tandem with him. So they're going to have to lean more on him. And that doesn't bode well for a 30-year-old bruising running back in the National Football League.
Well, you're going to have in Baltimore, unless Lamar Jackson suddenly develops the ability to throw consistent pass, they're going to be definitely a running team. So he is going to get over 300 carries. And they're going to run a lot of read option with Jackson, and they're going to run a little screen passes. He runs well with Jackson. But, Jackson is not a complete passer yet, and they just got rid of Flacco. So, all their hopes and dreams are on Jackson. We'll see what happens with this. This is going to be an offense that Bum Phillips can be proud of because, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Baltimore draft a running back to pair with Ingram because they're going to need a young back to take the pressure off of Jackson. This is going to be a lot of carries. I was just looking at Earl Campbell, just out of curiosity. Ingram's best year with us, he touched the ball in 2017, 230 carries. That was his highest total of his career. Prior to that was in 2014, he had 226 carries. Okay? This is Earl Campbell's numbers. Starting in 78, his rookie year, 302, 79, 368, 1980, 373 carries. 1981, 361 carries. Strike shortened season in 82. They only played 9 games, 157 carries. 1983, 322 carries. So because 84, he got traded midway through the season. So these numbers are a little bit off. But in 7 years, basically with Houston, Earl Campbell carried 1,979 times. That's in 7 years. He was 29 years old when he came to the Saints. And he was done. He was already done. So that just shows you how the game has evolved and why you want to have a platoon or running back by committee or a platoon system with running backs, because you can't run guys like this anymore. You run them to the ground. Atlanta Falcons, I'll never forget this. They had Jamal Anderson, okay? The year they went to the Super Bowl, which was in 98, Jamal Anderson had 410 carries. 410 carries. That's more than double Mark Ingram's average, okay? Mark Ingram's best year, he had 223? 230? Yeah. That's double Mark Ingram's 2016 season where he had 205 carries, literally doubled that. Well, what happened to Jamal Anderson in 1999? Blew out his knee. 2000, he came back, rushed for 1,000 yards, but he was done. 2001, his career was basically over. 55 carries in season was, I think he played, 3 games? He was 29 years old. Yeah, played 3 games in 2001. He was done. So, you can't run a running back like that anymore. So it's going to be interesting. At 29 years old, and 29 and 30 seems to be the magic number, so to speak, of running backs. Once you hit that age, all those hits you were taking at 21, 22, 23 years old add up. And you can't bounce off those hits anymore. You can't get up off those hits. You need to have more and more breaks. Or what's happened to Ingram, he's had a lot of breaks in his career, Now, with Baltimore, they're going to expect a full-time back, a guy they're going to give the ball 250 times to, because they don't have a passing game. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'd like for Ingram to come back just to get those 90 yards, get the yardage, and then retire. But
Yeah.
we'll see. But, yeah, my concern, of course, going back to what I was saying before, is we're going to get a lot of Kamara right now. And I don't want that to happen because that's another guy. You need to protect him from the wear and tear and the impacts. Because if he gets hurt, I mean,
our offense changed
drastically. I mean, you've lost your running game, and you've kind of hurt your passing game. You put a lot more on a 40-year-old quarterback, and we don't need that.
A few more names that we're going to bid a fond farewell to. It's apparently Ben Watson is retiring, so
yeah.
We've already released Kurt Coleman.
Yep.
Manti Te'o is a free agent, and he's visiting with the Raiders at the moment, I believe. Obviously, Ingram has gone to Baltimore, and Alex Okafor has gone to Kansas City.
That's let me just stop for a second here. Kansas City. There's two things I want to say about Kansas City. Number one, I get this argument from time to time with people, and they're like, they say, sometimes you got to take a risk and take a bad guy because you want somebody with a little bit of attitude. You can't have all choir boys on your team. You got to have a couple of questionable character guys because they're the guys that, character can't always trump talent. You need some of those talented guys. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Kansas City Chiefs. What have we got so far? Now and I like the Chiefs. This is the bad part because I like the Chiefs. And I like Andy Reid. Even though he does like the Kool-Aid man. I like Andy Reid. He does. He has that big red jacket on. All he needs to do is say, "Oh yeah," So it's something like Randy Savage more than a Kool-Aid man. Yeah. Anyway.
Ooh yeah.
Let me tell you something.
I'm just impressed that you know who Randy Savage is.
Oh, you have to. Between the memes, I know who Miss Elizabeth is. So
there is that.
Yeah. So anyway. Kansas City's got an offense up until about halfway through the season, 3/4 of the way through the season. That was a Super Bowl caliber team. And what's happened so far? Well, the running back goes and punches some chick and kicks her on the ground. He's gone. So they got no running game. That's their Alvin Kamara, okay, who's now playing for Washington.
Nope. Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland. You're right, Cleveland. I'm sorry. Washington took somebody else, a questionable character. Okay, so he's playing for Cleveland. Then we find out this week and weekend that their best receiver, the speed demon, who's already been in trouble before, gets arrested for domestic violence. The woman who had his child, the incident he got involved with before, he supposedly was trying to choke this woman while she was pregnant for his child. And I believe he hit her in the stomach, too. Did. Okay. Well, he apparently decided to try and finish the job this week and allegedly may have broken his child's arm, that child's arm. Okay? 3-year-old child. What's going to happen to him?
Well,
that's their Michael Thomas with greater speed. Kind of like that Michael Thomas and with Brandon Cook's ability. Okay? So now what does Kansas City have? Kansas City, you look at that offense, they got Pat Mahomes. They're like, yeah, good luck with this. You got to try and make this sucker work. Now we're taking away some of your best weapons. All you got left is, your Jimmy Graham, Travis
Kelsey.
Kelsey. Thank you. I almost said Khalees, and I knew that wasn't right. Travis Kelsey. But, who else are the receivers they have?
They're all, from that point, they're all second-tier guys.
Yeah. You've got Fat Albert, who's a free agent right now, Kelvin Benjamin. But, I mean, Sammy Watkins. But Sammy Watkins, at this point in his career, is more of a number 2 guy. You don't have that speed. You don't have that speed anymore. So when people tell me you can't expect to have a team full of choir boys, you've got to look at a team like Kansas City. And that's how you look at free agency now and how you look at the draft. The Saints are targeting people with good character who fit a locker room, not people with, he's young and he made a couple mistakes. No, you don't want them. You don't want them. Josh Gordon with New England, but Josh Gordon was with Cleveland Browns. He cannot stay sober. He cannot stay off the drugs. He's got fundamental issues that he tries to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. Okay? He has problems. He's incredibly talented, but can you rely on him? You need him. Obviously, New England won a Super Bowl without him, but a team not like New England would very well lose because you don't get those kind of quality players. So Alex Okafor going over to Kansas City, the Honey Badgers, Tyrann Mathieu going over to Kansas City, replacing Eric Berry. They got rid of Dee Ford, they got rid of Justin Houston. That team's got a lot of questions in their locker room right now, And I know we're not a Kansas City Chiefs podcast, but I mean, that's a good example of how a team that was Super Bowl ready, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, November and Thanksgiving, that time, they're a Super Bowl quality team. Now, they may be a second or third place team in that division. We don't know. We'll see when the draft and everything else gets started, but that's a huge, huge problem. And they have been Super Bowl since 1970.
They're in the same position that the Saints were
in 2014.
No, on Championship Sunday. They were one play from the Super Bowl.
Yep. If Dee Ford doesn't go offsides, they probably win that game. I mean, that's one of the big plays because that kept the drive going.
Yeah.
I just look at that team because I wanted to see Kansas City and the Saints in the Super Bowl. That was the Super Bowl I wanted.
Me too.
Because Kansas City hasn't been there since 1970. The Saints haven't been there since 2009. The new gun versus the old gun, the MVP challenge, that whole bit. Two high-powered offenses. We have a better defense. That would have been a fun Super Bowl to watch. Far more entertaining than that 10-3 shit that people had to sit through, or 13-3. I don't even remember the score anymore because it was so bad. But that would have been an incredible. And the whole just down the Mississippi River kind of bit, with the Super Bowl, two small market teams with passionate fan bases. Been a great, great Super Bowl. But Kansas City now, what's going to happen with these guys? We don't know.
It's all going to be. They're going to experience the same vibe that the Saints went through with those 3 7-9 seasons offensively, because everything that they're going to be able to do at this point, barring some sort of draft diamond, they're going to have to put the ball completely in Pat Mahomes' hands and depend on him to make it happen, just like the Saints had to do, giving the ball to Drew Brees, and Drew tried to do everything.
Yeah, they're going to have to have it.
Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
Right. So they're going to have a hell of a draft. They got a lot of holes all over that roster. So I mean, that to me, that is your lesson as a Saints fan of what not to do. Okay, such young talent. So here, you're talking about the Saints and Max Unger now leaving. We're talking about a locker room leadership void because you've lost three strong personalities in that locker room. You lost Ben Watson, you lost Mark Ingram, and now Max Unger is left. Max Unger has said, and we saw this yesterday, that he physically couldn't do the job anymore. I said on this show a few times, especially after the Dallas game, it looked like Max Unger was having a lot of problems. I thought he struggled a lot. I didn't know if he was hurt. Apparently he was, but I thought that Max Unger did not look as good at the tail end of the season as he did not only at the beginning of the season, but in previous seasons. So with with Unger's retirement, and he pretty much said that, he's retiring because he feels like he cannot play at the level he's used to playing at. That leaves a void, a hole to fill on the offensive line at center. We signed a guy from Minnesota, Easton.
Yes.
And he has played center. He's also a guard, that's something the Saints love, guys who can play multiple positions. The question is, how big of a hole, and I'm asking this to you, Sean, how big of a hole does the retirement of Max Unger leave, not just in the locker room, but on that offensive line?
Oh, it's impossible to adequately describe that because, and I had this conversation last year with people when Unger got hurt and we were without him. You know, Teron Armstead goes down. You can scheme away from a tackle. Guard gets a little bit harder, but the center, your entire offense revolves around a center. Not only is he the one making the calls up through there, but as you said, he was the leader of that offensive line and had been since he came here from Seattle. It's going to be a tough row to hoe to replace him. To be perfectly honest with you, of all of the guys that we lost in free agency, to me, Max Unger is a much bigger loss than Mark Ingram.
I think Max Unger compounds the loss of Mark Ingram. It's going to be a lot harder because here's the thing, and I've been talking out of both sides of my mouth about this, but we have survived with mediocre centers, and this is going to sound terrible because I don't think Jonathan Goodwin was really a mediocre center. I thought he was a good but not great center.
He was the first time.
Yeah. Brian De La Puente was a mediocre center, but he was good enough because you had two of the best guards this team has ever had. And I'm going all 50 years of this franchise. Two of the best guards. You make an argument for Jim Dombrowski. You can make a little bit of an argument maybe for the year and a half or 2 years we had of the Burt Reynolds look-alike. Conrad Dobler back in 78 and 79. Those are two guards, Emmanuel Sanders to an extent, but on as just pure football guards, Carl Nicks and Jari Evans were two of the best we ever had in that position. So you could kind of make up for a less than athletic average center because you got two monster guards who didn't miss a game, and that's important. Didn't miss a game, so you had two guys who really dominated that position, okay? Right now, to me, what's scary is, okay, you've lost Unger. So it's now going to be between among Clapp, Cameron Tom, Will Clapp, Cameron Tom, and Easton to try and fill that hole. Okay. Meanwhile, you've got on the left side a left tackle and a left guard who've missed several games that are not reliable because of injuries. You know, Armstead has yet to finish the season in his career as a starter because of injuries. And, you know, Pete, when he's not injured and no one else is injured around him, he gets moved around a lot. Okay. He gets moved to the left side when Armstead's out. He gets moved to the right side if Ramczyk gets hurt for a play. You know, he gets moved all over the place. So, you know, that's a lot of moving pieces that you're going to have to try and figure out before September how this is going to work. It's scary. I'm really, really concerned about this. Max, and I felt I could feel something about Unger all this past season, but I really am concerned that we're not going to have the center we need in August. So we'll see what happens.
What is the status on Laribas?
He's not only is he a free agent, but he's coming off of a knee injury. He got cut last year in training camp, and the Saints brought him back because Pete, who was coming off a broken leg, played in the third preseason game and a little bit of the fourth one against the Rams, and he got hurt in both of those games. So I brought Laribas back to play in place of Pete, if I remember right, in the Tampa game and the Cleveland game. I think Laribas played in those two games, and I think he got hurt in the Atlanta game. I think that's when his season ended, was the Atlanta game, and Pete had come back. But, yeah. Oh, no, Tom finished that game. Pete came back, I think, for the Giants game.
Yeah. Well, what is your read on our new defensive acquisitions? The primarily the bringing in of defensive tackle Mario Edwards and Malcolm Brown.
Well, first off, I love the Malcolm Brown addition. I wanted Malcolm Brown back in 2015. We had the 32nd overall pick. We picked Stephon Anthony, and I wanted Malcolm Brown then. And Malcolm Brown went the very next pick to New England. He is your classic one technique kind of guy. He was a guy who could play nose guard in a 3-4 scheme or better suited for a one technique tackle in a 4-3 scheme. That was Rob Ryan's second to last year. I think it was, 2014, 2015, 2016. Okay. Yeah, so 2015. If we weren't going to get Danny Shelton, I wanted Malcolm Brown because I thought he had the size we needed to be a run stuffer. So he's an upgrade, in my opinion, over Tyler Davison. He's got more moves, more strength, and he's got a bit of more of a pass rush capability than just be a guy who could tie up blockers. So I think this is a great move. Mario Edwards, I'm 50-50 on. He's a defensive end who can play defensive tackle. He can fill in that 3 technique spot. I'm one of the guys, and I could very well be totally wrong. We don't know. We said this last week too. I'm one of the guys who does not think Onyemata is going to get suspended. So I think Onyemata will start, but I think Edwards could rotate in until Sheldon Rankins is ready. And he's a guy who can play defensive end, So he is somebody that you could play. He could kick out on the outside on third down if you needed him. He could play on the outside on first and second down if you need him there. But he's a good rotational player. He's somebody who will hold the fort down to an extent until Rankins comes back. But if Onyemata is not available, we still need another 3-technique tackle. That's just kind of how I see him. But Malcolm Brown, people are going to be really happy with him. You're not going to be able to run up the middle on the Saints. You just aren't.
And that's been an issue over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah.
And one name we forgot to mention as far as free agent losses, young number 11.
Oh, Tommy Lee.
Tommy Lee is on his way to the Motor City.
Is he bringing Pamela Anderson with him? Oh, not that Tommy Lee. I'm sorry. Okay. Not that Tommy Lee. Is Pamela Anderson even biodegradable anymore? I don't know.
It's so hard to tell. She's part cyborg, part plastic.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not going there. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, you probably wouldn't be able to have a closed casket if she dies. So, that's just... Anyway. Listen. My joke about Tommy Lee Lewis, aside from the drummer joke, is he'll probably get that call in Detroit. He's not going to get it in New Orleans.
Well, Marty said today, hopefully when he gets there, he won't be in a position to not catch a pass in the NFC Championship game. And I responded, I said, I don't think that's going to be an issue in Detroit.
No. He wasn't coming back anyway. I know he was a Parcells guy, and we've given him a lot of opportunities. He's not a kick returner. He's not a very good receiver. He's not big enough. In Detroit is going to find this out. They signed him, I think, for a 1-year, $5 million deal. So be it. A lot of people are upset that the Saints are kind of ignoring the receiver position in free agency. I think, and I've said this before, the Saints just don't really go for free agents, especially older receivers in free agency. They really don't. I think maybe they had an interest in Adam Humphries, but they had a number of, $7 million, $6 million they were willing to give a guy like him, and he got a much bigger contract. So like, see you, don't want to be you. Kind of thing. So I think they're going to target in that second round with that second round pick. They're going to target a receiver. I know there's a lot of other needs that people want to see get taken first, but I think they're going to try and get a big guy, a speed guy, and that's just what they're going to do. And they're going to roll with those guys, let them compete, and see who shakes out. They want to see if Cameron Meredith can come back healthy, get timing back down with Ted Ginn Jr. and see what you can do with him, develop Kirkwood a little bit more, and see if they can develop Tre'Quan Smith and let Tre'Quan Smith compete with this rookie they're going to eventually draft. And we'll see what happens from there. The big question right now for Saints fans is, where's Jared Cook? Are we going to sign Jared Cook? When's Jared Cook going to sign? If it wasn't for Unger's retirement, we'd still be asking that question.
Jared Cook knows who he's going to sign with. There's not a doubt in my mind. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in hibernation right now. He'd be out looking for a job.
Well, I think he's trying to squeeze more money out of people. He's 32 years old. This is his last big contract. We probably saw Pete Cook anyway with Oakland. I think he's a declining player, but you're digging through the discount bin of DVDs trying to find a good movie. That's basically what you're doing. This is the $4.99 bin at Walmart, and you're trying to find a movie that you like, that you want to buy on DVD. It's nothing more than that. And Cook is probably the equivalent of an 80s Arnold Schwarzenegger film that you really enjoyed, and you want to get it. You know there's one in there. You just got to find it. And yeah, Commando, Raw Deal. Oh, my favorite line in Raw Deal. That's one they don't show, and I'm really disappointed they don't show that one. In Raw Deal, after Schwarzenegger just killed all the drug dealers in that bar, all those people laying all over the place, the cop goes in there with his commander. Cop looks at his commander. What do you think happened in here? I mean, his body's strewn off with holes blown in the walls and stuff. And the commander looks over and says, I think somebody got really pissed off. Perfect Schwarzenegger kind of movie line, riding that white Buick Riviera convertible with the machine gun, playing Satisfaction from the Rolling Stones as he goes and shoots up the place. Awesome film.
Yeah. I wasn't much of a Schwarzenegger guy. No, I did like.
I saw them all. Even the last Action Hero, as bad as that one was.
No, I didn't. I just bought the soundtrack to that.
Commando.
No, his most famous
Terminator.
Thank you.
Saw all three of them, and the third one was horrible, but I watched the first. The first two were great. Predator, saw that.
Yeah, Predator.
Commando.
Was good.
Commando.
Now, Terminator. Truth be told, I watched Terminator because of the woman in it.
Really?
Yes, indeed.
No.
Yeah, man.
You know who's in that movie, and he's only in a brief part, but it was one of his first big movies, is, oh, my God, I'm forgetting people's names just as I'm getting ready to say them. Game over, man! Game over! What are we going to do now? From Aliens, he was in Apollo 13. He was in, oh, come on. He was in Terminator. And he is the guy whose clothes, basically, Schwarzenegger steals.
He's in Tombstone, too.
Yes, he's in Tombstone.
Paxton.
Yes, Bruce Paxton. Thank you.
Bill Paxton.
That's it. Bill Paxton. Yeah.
Yep.
Gary Sinise kept coming to mind, and I knew it wasn't Gary Sinise. But
he was also in one of the classic, all-time best 1980s movies, Weird Science.
Oh. Yeah. I got to admit, I watched that movie, too.
I watched that movie several times. Kelly LeBrock, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, I watched it too. There was, some movies I'm just like, well, Terminator 2, I have to say, Terminator 2, after my brother and I went and saw that film when that came out, and it was back then, this was before the megaplex theaters and stuff like that. There was one theater in Lafayette. It was just a one-show theater. And they showed the film, and it was in digital sound and 72 millimeter film, whatever the high quality film was back then. My brother and I, after we saw that movie, of course, they chase your ass out after it's over with, make sure nobody just hangs out for the next film. We got it right back out and got right back in line, went and saw that again because, I'm just tripping out over. This is the early days of CGI. I know we're all spoiled today, but when the new Terminator, the liquid metal Terminator, pours himself into the helicopter, you can see the other guy's reflection, the pilot's reflection in the metal, stretched out as it comes in, and then it closes back to his face. I was just blown away by that. I'm just watching this going, how the hell did they do that? Today it's nothing. Today it looks, it looks like, oh, that's just CGI, but back then, that was state of the art stuff. We're just like, how in the hell did they do that?
Well, that's like the Star Wars movies, the original.
Yep.
The scenes on when they're going to blow up the Death Star. That was actual plastic model ship parts.
Yep.
Built on a table like 20 feet long.
John Dykstra. John Dykstra did that stuff. He was the one that pioneered it. They had to invent technology for Star Wars. They had no technology to do that. Ships weren't on wires hanging around. They actually shot this on a blue screen with a stick on the bottom to make these, ships come in like that. Or the cameras, they invented cameras to go underneath the model. So you got that shot of that Star Destroyer coming across the screen. All that stuff. Yeah. And, today we look at it and go, oh my God, you can see it now. But back then, you never seen anything like that before. Never. But one last thing, we start going on about movies and stuff, but we talked a little bit about Manti Te'o going to the Raiders. He hasn't signed anything with them yet. Defensive backs, we tendered Ken Crawley. He hasn't signed his tender, but we have not done anything with PJ Williams, have not even talked to PJ Williams. I don't think PJ Williams has a single interview or anything with any team, but he was the guy who talked Latavius Murray into coming to the Saints. He did the call and told the guy, hey, you're going to love it over there. So PJ Williams is a possibility he could come back. We still don't have a safety to replace Coleman. So we're not done with free agency. Even if we get Jared Cook, we're not done with free agency. There's still some more holes to fill. There's rumors right now about Robert Quinn possibly getting traded to us. The Cowboys turned it down. I don't know what we're going to trade. We don't have anything to trade, but the Dolphins seem desperate to get rid of him because the Dolphins are tanking. They want a high draft pick next year to go, to tank for Tua. That's the hashtag. But, they signed Fix Tragic just so they have a quarterback. It's I don't know what's going to happen with that. People are asking if Robert Quinn comes to the Saints, what does that say about Davenport? I don't think it says anything about Davenport. I think it says we want as many pass rushers as we can get on this team. And we're going to rotate you guys. So y'all are fresh the whole season.
You put a fresh body in every play, that's going to be kind of difficult to deal with.
Absolutely.
Because you're not going to be able to change out your offensive lineman every play.
Right.
And
if you can go to your bench and pull off a Robert Quinn in the fourth quarter with fresh legs, or if you start Robert Quinn and you pull in a Marcus Davenport with fresh legs in the fourth quarter, well, you can spell Cameron Jordan, for a few series. So he has fresh legs in the fourth quarter. That's a hell of a matchup. So, yeah, that's how I'm looking at it. If we do this, I don't know if this is going to happen. You still have Ziggy, whatever his name is, from Detroit with the bad shoulder. They're doing physicals on him to see if his shoulder can hold up. That's a guy that, if you bring him in, he's probably good for, as a pass rush specialist. But you can never have too many pass rushers. That's how you need to look at moves like that. Not who are you replacing as a starter, but who are you getting to give us more weapons on this defense. That's how you have to look at these things.
Well, we thank everybody for joining us tonight. We want to invite you guys once again to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube, and follow us on Facebook at Under the Dome Podcast. as always, we love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do, because without you, there is no us. And with that, it's time for me to get ready for my job. So I'm gonna throw it to my partner in crime. All yours, Alan.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, I appreciate that. Uh, Thank you guys for joining us because without you guys, we really don't have a show. It's just two guys sitting there rambling on about stuff you already know about. Um, I've
But
got
hey, we give more for the money though, because
that.
we do movie reviews, we do music reviews,
You
and
never
we
know where the
also,
show's going to go.
yeah, you don't. If people could hear inside my head, which is kind of a scary concept to begin with, but the the number of times that I stop and I think, God, where did we lose it?
Well, you know, if you're going to start going through the 80s, we haven't even touched the 80s TV shows yet, but if you start going through 80s and 70s stuff, I'm there with you. I'm ready to roll.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
80s music, 80s movies, 80s movies and music. That's my high school and college years, all that whole decade. So I'm good. I'm ready to roll. I got some stories I can tell. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.
Peace.